and welcome to our webinar on AS and A-level history. I'm Jen Wade from Cambridge University Press and Assessment, and I'll be hosting this webinar for our speakers today. I'm pleased to announce our webinar team for today. Raquel Courtney is a development manager in our products and services team and will be taking us through all the key changes to the Cambridge AS and A-level history syllabuses. We're also lucky to have John Etty with us here today. John is an associate head teacher with 23 years of experience teaching history in both the UK and New Zealand. He's also one of the authors on our International History coursebook. Today, he's joining us to share his expert insights and teaching ideas. Liliana Savage is a commissioning editor for our published team and learning resources team, and will be providing an overview of the new supporting resources available for history, including textbooks and the school support hub materials. My colleague Jane and I are also part of the international education team here at Cambridge University Press and Assessment, and I will be hosting the webinar today, and Jane will be on hand to support throughout the session as well. And that's the end of our introduction. Let me now hand over to Raquel to get things started with an overview of the key changes to the syllabuses and what they mean for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. So hello, my name's Raquel Courtney, and I worked on the design and redevelopment of the revised AS and A-level history. This is part of our rolling review of syllabuses. You might be aware that here at Cambridge Assessment, we review our syllabuses periodically to make sure that they meet customer needs and they are aligned to best practice. The revision of this history syllabus was part of our rolling review of syllabuses. So this revised syllabus is for first assessment in 2027. Just a note that if you are a school in the US, this syllabus will no longer be available for assessment in 27 and onwards. Instead, we have a new route of syllabuses for schools in the US. There's new syllabuses in US history and new syllabuses in European history and international history. For more information, you can visit our public website. For schools all around the world outside of the US, History 9489 remains available as it is now. So for this revised syllabus, we wanted to retain the features that teachers like currently. Teachers have told us that they like the assessment model, they like the historical skills in the qualification. All of those are retained. What we wanted to do with this redevelopment is clarify the requirements in the topics, streamline some of the topics, and make other aspects of the syllabus more specific, such as the details of the assessment syllabus. We've clarified the requirements, and we've also taken this opportunity to update some of our mark schemes to make sure that they're as clear as possible for teachers. At the same time, we have looked at the progression from our Cambridge IGCSE and O-level history qualifications to ensure that we have good progression to this revised A-level in history. So what has remained the same? The syllabus continues to have options to choose from depending on your interest and expertise. That means that the options for European, American, international history continue to be available. The content in paper 3, historical interpretations, has remained unchanged. The same content is available. The only change that you will see is some of it has been clarified to give more guidance on how to approach teaching. The historical skills and style of questions are the same as in the current syllabus. So what is new for this revised syllabus? The content has been revised and exemplified with minor changes made to key questions, date ranges, and content. Further detail has been added to give clarity and aid teaching. We have taken the opportunity to streamline the focus of the topics. We have retained the most popular topics, and those topics that were least popular, some elements have been incorporated into the streamlined topics, and some of them have been removed. The list of command words have been updated, and the marking groups for paper 1 and 2 in the Part B questions have also been updated to help teachers better understand what examiners are looking for in examiner responses. In terms of changes to the AS level content, papers 1 and paper 2, the European option, the number of topics has been reduced from 4 to 3. The topic on the Industrial Revolution in Britain, 1950 to 1815, has been removed. In the American option, the content has also been restructured from 4 topics to 3. And in the international option, the number of topics again has been reduced from 4 to 3. The topic on China and Japan has been removed. In terms of the A-level paper 4 content, the European option, again, we have streamlined the content, reducing the topics from 4 to 3. The topic on Britain, 1919 to 39, has been removed. The American option, again, we have streamlined topics, reducing the topics from 4 to 3. And in the international option, in addition to reducing the topics from 4 to 3, some of the existing content has been retained and reorganized into new refreshed topics. The 3 new topics are the Soviet Empire in Eastern Europe, the end of minority rule in South Africa and Zimbabwe, and the route to independence in Malaysia and Indonesia. Just to mention that the revised syllabus and the specimen papers are already published on our public website and our school support hub. And we also have exciting updated endorsed resources to accompany the revised syllabus. We have updated endorsed resources from Cambridge University Press and Assessment and from Hachette Learning. And I would like now to hand over to my colleague Biljana Savic, who will tell you more about endorsed resources. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Raquel. Hi, everyone. I'm Biljana, and I'm a commissioning editor for history at Cambridge. I'm thrilled today to share an insight into our new teaching and learning resources, exploring how some of the key features in our endorsed resources at Cambridge support you and your students in the classroom, as well as further support that is available on the School Support Hub and through our professional development courses. First, let's look at the School Support Hub. So this is available to all registered Cambridge schools with us. And here we can see that it provides a wide array of curriculum support resources, and it is a great way for you to keep up to date with your subject and the global Cambridge community. You can use this platform to get in touch with other Cambridge teachers and experienced examiners through our online discussion forums, as well as finding out more about professional development courses. Next, you can see what exactly is available for history here, for both AS level and A level. So the following support will be available. Learner Guide, that will be available from July 2025. The Learner Guide explains what learners need to know about the course and examinations. Learner Guides provide learners with the tools and approaches to learning, as well as examples of exam questions and a guide on how to answer them well as revision checklists to self-assess their own understanding and knowledge of history. Next, specimen paper answers will also be available from July 2025. We provide specimen paper answers with responses written in the style of a Cambridge candidate, as well as examiner comments to demonstrate high-level answers. These will be used together with our specimen papers, as well as mark schemes, so you can familiarize yourself with the overall assessment approach. The schemes of work are available again from July 2025. They are medium-term teaching plans that provide ideas about how to construct and deliver your Cambridge course. We have broken the syllabus down into teaching units with suggested teaching activities and learning resources to use in the classroom. The schemes include advice, tips, and ideas to provide you with basis to plan your lessons. And finally, example candidate responses will be developed after the first live series in January 2028. These booklets use examples of candidates' work to show how different levels of performance relate to the subject's curriculum and assessment objectives. Each candidate response comes with examiner comments that explain where and why marks were awarded. There are also notes to explain how the candidate could have improved their response, as well as common mistakes that candidates make. Now, let's move on to the endorsed resources. I'm pleased to share that we have new updated editions of our course books and the teacher's resource. So this is the third edition. We have the course books and the teacher's resource for AS level history. The two course books cover the 2 out of the 3 options in the syllabus. We have Modern Europe and International History. As you can see on the slide, the teacher's resource supports both course books. We have scheduled these to publish in May, although we are doing everything we can to bring the updates forward and publish earlier in April. You can check our website and pre-order from there. Also, I would like to say that at this time, we're not publishing a new edition of the American option because candidate numbers for this option outside of the US are low, and the US will have a specific syllabus, as Raquel mentioned earlier, that will replace the American option for that region. For the same reason, we're not publishing at this time for the A-level part of the course. This is in line with the previous publication for this syllabus. Now, moving on to tell you more about the features in the new series. So we have updated the series, and the 3 resources, the course books and the teacher's resource, can be used together seamlessly to deliver the course. The content is split into 4 different sections, and the course books are endorsed for full syllabus coverage. The chapters follow the topics and the questions in the syllabus so that the teachers and students are confident that they're covering the required content. On the next slide, we have some new features, including the Getting Started With chapter, which outlines what the course covers, the difference between IGCSE and AS level history, and the skills that are needed for students to succeed at this level, so they know what to focus on. Again, the Preparing for Assessment chapter is really important, that it delves deeper into the assessment for this qualification, helping students to understand the exam skills and the tasks they need to develop and to succeed. The glossary of key terms is really important so that the students can learn and review the key vocabulary for the course. We have more features on the next slide. I'm just going to briefly mention them because then John will talk about these in more detail shortly. I'm just going to mention some of them. So the key terms appear on the page where they are first mentioned. They include clear definitions of the key subject-specific terminology. We have timelines that are detailed at the start of each chapter, and they help students understand the chronological order of significant events. The key questions briefly set out the topics that the students will understand once they have completed the chapter. The Getting Started activities help students identify what they already know about the topic. We have loads of activities, including individual, pair, group, and class tasks. These are scaffolded to provide step-by-step support, gradually increasing in complexity to support students in developing higher order thinking skills like analysis. And key figures are short descriptions of important historical figures that highlighted their principal achievements. Next, we have more features on the next slides, including key concepts, reflection boxes, and improve this answer. John will tell you more about the improve this answer. It's a really important feature because that's written by our expert authors. These are answers to practice questions that invite students to reflect on what works well and what can be improved in their writing. So this is really important. We also have tips that are in the preparing for assessment chapter that highlight things for students to remember when they revise. Also the self-evaluation checklists at the end of each chapter help students to evaluate how confident they are with their learning of the topics. As well as, importantly, practice questions. They are really important for our students and teachers because they help students apply their knowledge and prepare for the assessment. On the next slide, I'm going to talk about the teacher's resource. So this one covers both international history and modern Europe. It is endorsed for full syllabus for teacher support. Some of the key features include practical support with academic writing, activities, worksheets, and tasks that focus on key vocabulary, we also have detailed specific answers for all activities from the course book. That is something that you wanted when we conducted teacher interviews at the beginning before we developed the courses and the resource. So I'm really pleased to say that we have answers to all the activities. And the teacher's resource also contains worksheets, so this will save you time to prepare and to share with your students. We have specific strategies and resources for addressing language barriers that will help you to support students who may struggle with the language demands of historical study. And finally, we have common misconceptions that gives you insight into the typical misunderstanding for students and helps you to address and correct these issues to ensure that there is more accurate understanding of historical content. So this is a short overview of the features in our endorsed resources. And now I'm going to hand over to our author on the endorsed resources, John Etty, who will share more insight into our endorsed resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Biljana. Hello, everybody. My name's John. I'm one of the authors on the endorsed resource. I wrote sections from the international textbook. I've been a history teacher for 23 years, as Jen mentioned at the beginning of the session. I taught at schools in New Zealand and in the UK. I've worked in a Cambridge school for the last 13 years, and in that school I've taught IGCSE, AS and A-level. I've been involved as an author with Cambridge for the last 8 years. And as I mentioned, I wrote sections of the international text along with my writing colleagues, Patrick Walsh-Atkins and Graham Goodlad. I've been asked to provide an introduction to the resources that we published in support of the new history syllabus with a particular angle on the sorts of things that teachers will be particularly concerned about. So the textbooks were written in parallel, but they're covering the different topic options for the international and modern European sections of the course. And the textbooks were written following research and incorporating teacher insights into what teachers wanted to see in the next round of resources. And the top 3 key things that teachers said they wanted was that syllabus coverage was key, but so was content accessibility. So teachers want to know and be confident that the level of detail and depth in the texts is sufficient for students to be able to achieve the highest results. But also to be assured that the resources will be accessible to students for whom perhaps English is not their first language. So the textbook's written in depth with accessible and comprehensive syllabus coverage by expert authors who've been history teachers for a long time. The second thing that teachers said they wanted was additional support so that teachers can deliver the course content with confidence, and therefore the endorsed teacher resource to accompany the course books provides support for teachers with a focus on differentiation and unpacking the assessment. And the third thing that teachers said was that students struggle with skill acquisition, especially with analytical writing and critical thinking, and therefore the skills-based approach with the focus on the application of skills and in particular writing skills through engaging activities, source work and practice questions are critical. So there are more activities in these editions than in previous editions, with more structured tasks for each question. And as Biljana said, a comprehensive set of sample student answers to accompany every question. Both books contain the same features. Biljana has already run through a number of these. They're written in the same way in both texts. So from a purchasing perspective for teachers in schools, the only question you really have to think about is which topic options your students are going to be learning. So this slide gives us a preview of some of the features in the book. I'm not going to go through all of them, but some of the really important ones that I know that teachers will want to know about. I've already mentioned accessibility. That's addressed through the writing of the text, which has been carefully checked to make sure that the language levels are appropriate for all of the different kinds of students who'll be accessing this syllabus, and including students for whom English is an additional language. The textbook also features those key concepts, and the key concepts really are the ones that help students to develop a deeper understanding, a conceptual understanding of the content in the syllabus. The key concepts help students to make direct links between the content that they're learning about in the current area of study and perhaps those bigger, broader ideas that perhaps stretch across different periods and places. The key terms provide specific subject and topic definitions so that they are so that they appear just in time in the text, right at the point in the text where the word appears for the first time, but they're repeated in the glossary so that those terms that pop up more than once, students will be able to revisit as the course progresses. The third point that I wanted to mention is the reflection tasks. There are reflection boxes throughout the text, and those reflection boxes are designed to give students a range of different opportunities to think about how they approach certain activities in the course book and certain activities that relate specifically to the study of history and these topics. And they invite students to think about how they might improve when they encounter similar tasks in the future. And these reflection tasks have been chosen because they're particularly important and indicative of key ideas that will recur through history. So these features are intended to make the text accessible. As I mentioned, the text is written at a level of depth that's sufficient for students to be able to succeed to the highest levels. Of course, as a team of writers, we can't predict what questions might be asked by Cambridge examiners in the future, but the text is sufficiently detailed to give students what they need to be able to succeed on this syllabus. Moving on to the next slide. It's critical that what the textbook offers students and teachers should be carefully structured. And in particular, we know that teachers and students want plenty of opportunities to attempt practice questions. As history teachers, I think we often see that our primary role is to ensure that students have covered the syllabus content, and we therefore make sure that students have encountered the chronology and the events and the people and the causes and the consequences, the arguments, the perspectives of people at the time and people since those events. And there's a huge amount of content that students have got to manage. That means they're being acquainted with lots of historical information and what we might call statements of fact about the past. That's a lot to manage to hold in your head, especially over a long period of time. Now, especially when we're dealing with source-based questions, I think it's true that students will either struggle to recall the detail in the information that they've encountered, or perhaps they'll find it hard to determine precisely which details are most relevant, which details they should select and use in their writing. Perhaps also they know what they want to say and they could explain it to you verbally in class given the time, but they find it difficult to write it succinctly when they're under a time pressure limit and when they're under the stress of an exam. So what the course book aims to do is to give you and your students lots of activities and practice questions which are linked to the text. So the activities are always located in the text just where you want them, and they draw on the ideas and the content in the text that you've just been working through. Another problem I think we often find as history teachers is that students' writing doesn't get sufficiently into the analysis of sources as evidence. Students can sometimes write a lot, but sometimes they don't know what to write about the sources. When they write, They tend to simply recount or paraphrase the sources, taking them at face value, or they can write about where and when the sources came from, but again, they do so at face value. So they can draw superficial conclusions about the value of the evidence, but it's often drawn from the information that's provided in the provenance, that bit at the bottom of the source, and therefore it often relates to the type of source the information originates from. So they'll make quite superficial comments about a particular source and comment, for example, on the fact that it's a letter, like the examples that you can see on the screen, and then go on to make comments about this piece of evidence, but based on generalizations that would apply to all letters written anywhere at any time to anyone about any subject. So these comments tend not to be very highly rewarded because they're not specific or contextualized enough. So the coursebook aims to highlight using some specific examples of how relevant contextual information can be used to help students develop their source-based writing. So here on screen, we've got an example from the Modern European coursebook where we have an explanation of Bismarck on the left and how he presented himself in his memoirs. And Bismarck's memoirs are quite often used in source activities and sometimes in exam papers as well. And students do need to understand that Bismarck wrote about himself in his memoirs in particular ways because he wanted to convey a particular impression about his role in the key events in the period. So knowing this, knowing how Bismarck wanted to be represented, how he wanted to be seen by people reading his autobiography, helps students to understand what Bismarck is saying in source D in this example question, which follows immediately from that key concept box you can see on the left. So it also helps to explain why he's saying, what he's choosing to emphasize, what he's choosing to leave out. Then if you look to the right, you can see that we've suggested some answers to these practice questions and some commentary on those answers. So the commentaries should help students to see how the answers might be improved, and they'll offer some prompts so that students can use the coursebook as a resource and focus on how to improve on similar questions in future. Moving on to the next slide, we know that teachers and students want to understand the assessment and how to perform highly in it, and that's understandable. Now, I know from my teaching experience that students sometimes imagine that there's some trick, there's some secret hack that means that they will be able to succeed. In other words, they imagine that doing well in the assessment means learning the tricks, learning the hacks. And so they see the assessment as a puzzle to be solved or a lock that needs to be picked. Students in this kind of mindset don't see very much of a connection. They don't see enough of a connection between the content they're learning and succeeding in the assessment. They'll say things like, oh, I just need to get better at my exam technique, or I just need to get better at sources. And they're probably right, but what they're overlooking is the importance of knowing the content. So with the right knowledge of the content, one set of sources can be really easily understood and they can be written about much more easily. But the same student might struggle with a different question if their knowledge of that topic isn't good enough. So what the coursebook aims to do is to balance the detailed content with detailed advice for assessment. So the preparing for assessment chapters and the assessment tips that are included through the text always refer to the content, and they rely on specific content knowledge, but they also include some reference to the activities and the exam style questions. When students write essays for paper 2 on this syllabus, they often misjudge the kind of response that's expected. Many students will write answers that are in a narrative style. So their grasp of the chronology is evident, but their focus on the question is limited. Alternatively, they might manage to maintain an analytical focus, but they'll tend to separate their explanatory writing from the more evaluative comments that will usually attract the higher level marks. So they'll write paragraphs which are more or less analytical, but then try to add an evaluative conclusion at the end. What the course book aims to do is to help students to understand that the hack lies in the content itself. Your students need to be analyzing a range of topics, and those ideas and the ideas in the paragraphs need to be organized to cover the concepts that are central to the topic. There's no single secret to good essay writing except that a sound understanding of the content is really important. Students need to be able to provide more than one detailed specific example, and that example must support the key analysis in that paragraph. So in the coursebook, The text is carefully organised so that the key analysis is easy to understand, nicely laid out. The tips for answering specific types of questions set out the key things that students need to remember. So the assessment advice chapters are not abstract and hard to apply. Students should be able to see how the advice for the assessment is directly related to the content. So at this point, I'm going to hand back to Jen for the next stage.
Thanks so much, Raquel, Biljana, and John, for those fantastic presentations. It's really appreciated. It's been really helpful to hear about all the changes to the syllabus and the new updates for teaching and learning resources as well, and to hear some teaching ideas and examples from John, especially in terms of how you might adapt these. Good luck with your teaching, and goodbye.